The feast was a monument to failure. It sat untouched on a solid gold cart. Just outside the queen's chamber, there was a mountain of glowing Kian crystals, humming with energy. There was a bowl of shimmering silver broth, guaranteed to cure any known disease. There was even a slice of starfruit, imported across 3 galaxies at the cost of a small ship. It was the finest food in the cosmos. And High Physician Malachar watched as a servant quietly, shamefully, wheeled it all away. None of it had been touched. This was the war. It was not fought with lasers or fleets, but in the oppressive, hushed quiet of the royal bedroom. And they were losing. Queen Thalassa was dying. Her body, which had ruled the Cygnian Empire for 500 years, was now her greatest enemy. The illness had no name. The physicians, in their frustration, had simply called it the imperial fading. It began as a ripple of discomfort. Then, all food became tasteless. Then, it became repulsive. Now the very smell of her own planet's food made her turn her head, her breathing becoming shallow. She was wasting away. Her skin, once the color of a vibrant blue nebula, was now a pale, chalky white. Her eyes, which had held the wisdom of stars, were clouded and dull. They fed her nutrients directly into her veins, but it was like pouring water into a shattered cup. Her body simply refused to live. "There is no virus," Malachar reported to the Crown Prince. Prince Vorian stood by the window, staring out at the capital city, but seeing nothing. "There is no toxin. There is no parasite," Malachar continued, his voice tight with anger. He was a being of pure logic, and this was illogical. "Her systems are empty. They are rejecting sustenance. It is as if her body has forgotten how to be alive." "How long?" Prince Vorian asked. He did not turn around. Malachar looked at the floor. 2 days. Perhaps 3. Her life force is guttering. The news spread through the palace like a cold fog. The servants whispered in the halls. The guards stood with less pride. The entire empire was holding its breath, waiting for its heart to stop beating. Deep in the sublevels, in a noisy, hot maintenance junction, Reese wiped grease from his forehead. Reese was a human. He was small, soft, and utterly unimportant. He was a biosystems engineer, part of a minor interspecies exchange. His job was to make sure the palace's organic recycling pipes didn't clog. He was, by every definition, invisible. He had been on shift for 10 hours. The palace food made him sick. It was all cold, vibrating gels and foams that tasted like perfume. So he brought his own. His stomach rumbled. It was time for his break. He sat on a crate, far from any sensors or supervisors. He pulled out a simple, insulated silver bag. From it, he took a square, metal box. He pressed a button on its side. A bright, chemical orange light glowed, and the box began to hiss. He was reheating his peasant food. Back in the royal chamber, Queen Thalassa had fallen into a shallow, fitful sleep. Prince Vorian and High Physician Malachar watched her, their faces carved from stone. The air was sterile, filtered, and perfect. It smelled of nothing but clean minerals and quiet despair. Then, something new entered the air. It was impossible. The palace filtration system was perfect. It scrubbed all bacteria, all pollen, all foreign particles. It allowed nothing in or out, but this aroma. It did not follow the rules. It was not a clean, perfect smell. It was complex. It was messy. It was chaotic. It was the smell of heat. It was the smell of roasted grains. It was the smell of some kind of cured animal protein, and a sharp, tangy scent of fermented milk. It was the smell of life. Down in the sublevels, Reese opened the hot container. A cloud of steam hit his face. Inside was a simple, glorious mess of melted yellow cheese, toasted bread, and thick-sliced salted meat. A grilled cheese sandwich. His stomach roared in approval. The aroma, that complex, dirty, human smell, moved through the ventilation shaft. It was a mistake, a flaw in the system. It was not meant to reach the royal chamber, but it did. It drifted over the expensive medical machines. It passed the horrified nose of High Physician Moliker, who sniffed, his eyes wide. What was that primitive smell? It reached the bed. It reached the dying queen. In her sleep, her nose twitched. Her mind, which had been lost in a cold, gray fog, suddenly saw a spark. It was a feeling she had never known. It was not hunger. It was something more powerful. It was curiosity. Her eyelids fluttered. They slowly, painfully, opened. The cloudiness was gone. Her blue eyes were sharp. Prince Vorian gasped. Moliker stepped forward, his medical scanner humming. "Your Majesty?" The prince whispered. The queen did not look at him. She did not look at the doctor. She looked at the silver ventilation grate in the wall. She breathed in, long and deep. A sound like a rusty hinge came from her throat. For the first time in a month, Queen Felisa spoke with power. "Find that," she commanded. "Bring it to me, now." Prince Vorian and High Physician Moliker stared at their queen. The command still echoed in the air. "Bring it to me, now." Vorian was the first to move. He did not know what that was, but his mother was awake. Her eyes were clear. Hope, a feeling he had not felt in weeks, was a painful shock in his chest. "Moliker, what is it? Where did it come from?" the prince demanded. Moliker was already at his medical console, his fingers flying across the controls. He was not a physician now. He was a scientist. "An airborne particle," he muttered. "Unidentified." It bypassed the main filtration. He hit a key, and a loud, polite beep sounded through the palace. It was not the fire alarm. It was the contamination alert. "Lock down the palace." Vorian shouted into his wrist communicator. "Find the source of the air breach." To the royal guard, a contamination alert meant one thing: a biological attack. Deep in the sublevels, Rhys had no idea what was happening. He had just finished the first half of his grilled cheese sandwich. It was perfect. The bread was crispy, and the cheese was hot and salty. He was leaning back against a warm power conduit, his eyes closed, enjoying the simple human moment. He did not hear the alarm. The maintenance tunnels were too loud, filled with the hum of the palace's giant engines. Above him, the palace was in chaos. Teams of guards, in heavy sealed armor, began sweeping the halls. They moved in perfect, silent teams, their rifles scanning every corner. In the queen's chamber, Moliker's machine beeped again. A chemical analysis appeared on his screen. He stared at it in pure scientific horror. "What is it?" Vorian pressed. "It is primitive," Moliker said, his voice full of disgust. "Complex fats, high sodium proteins, fermented milk lipids. It is chaotic. It is food, but it is not clean." He traced the source on his map. The signal was strong. "It is coming from the service levels. Section Delta, Junction 4B. He looked at the prince. "That is the waste and engineering level." Prince Vorian's face hardened. "Go get it. Whatever it is, bring it here." 4 royal guards, led by the huge Captain Krell, descended in a high-speed lift. Their mission was to find and contain a biological threat. They landed in the sublevels with a heavy thud. The air was hot and smelled of oil and ozone. Krell pointed his sensor. The contamination reading was off the charts. "This way. The smell is strong." Rhys was just lifting the second half of his sandwich. He was thinking about his next work shift. He was thinking about how much he missed Earth. Clang. The heavy steel door to the maintenance junction burst open. Rhys yelped and dropped his sandwich. 4 massive blue-skinned aliens in black armor filled the doorway. They were 8 feet tall. Their glowing blue eyes scanned the room, Their energy rifles were all pointed directly at him. Reese froze. His heart hammered against his ribs. He was terrified. He thought they were here to execute him. "Do not move, human," Captain Krell barked. His voice was like rocks grinding together. Reese raised his hands slowly. I was just on my break, I swear. I didn't touch anything." Captain Krell ignored him. His eyes scanned the small room. He saw Reese's tool bag. He saw a power wrench. And he saw the object. It was on the floor. It was in two pieces, oozing a strange yellow substance. It was the source of the smell. "Identify the object," Krell commanded, pointing his rifle at the sandwich. Reese was confused. He was shaking so badly he could barely speak. "What? That? It's my lunch. It's a grilled cheese sandwich." Krell stared. He had no idea what those words meant. He had seen the chemical analysis. This was the bioweapon. He spoke into his communicator. "High Physician, we have secured the source. It is an unknown food item. The human. He calls it a grilled cheese sandwich." A long, tense silence filled the line. Reese could hear the faint, shocked voices on the other end. He could hear Prince Vorian. "He what?" Then Malakor's voice came through, cold and sharp. "Captain, secure the sandwich. Do not let it touch your skin. Secure the human. Bring them both to the royal chamber, immediately." Reese felt his stomach turn to ice. The royal chamber? He was going to see the queen? "Sir, please," Reese stammered. "It's just food. It's my food. I'm sorry." Krell lowered his rifle. He produced a sterile silver containment box. Using two long metal tongs, he carefully picked up the two halves of the sandwich, crumbs and all. He dropped them into the box and sealed the lid. "You," Krell said, pointing at Reese. "You will come with us. You will explain this peasant food to the queen herself." The journey from the sublevels to the royal chamber was the longest walk of Reese's life. He was surrounded by 4 royal guards, their heavy footsteps echoing on the polished marble floors. Servants and officials peeked from doorways, their eyes wide with fear and confusion. They saw the guards, and then they saw Reese, the small, dirty human in his stained work uniform. He was being marched to the queen's chamber. This could only mean an execution. Captain Krell held the silver containment box in one hand, as if he were holding a deadly bomb. Reese's heart hammered. He tried to think. What was the penalty for accidentally poisoning the queen with a smell? He was just a technician. He was nobody. He was about to be executed for a sandwich. The giant golden doors of the royal chamber slid open with a soft hiss. The room was vast and dark. The only light came from the glowing medical machines that surrounded a huge central bed. The air smelled sharp and sterile, like a hospital. Reese could feel the cold despair in the room. Prince Vorian stood near the bed, his back rigid. High Physician Malakar was checking a screen, his face a mask of grim frustration. And on the bed, Reese saw her. Queen the Lassadat. She was just a thin shape under the sheets, her skin a ghostly white, but her eyes were open, and they were fixed on him. Or rather, on the box. "He is here, Your Majesty," Captain Krell announced. His voice boomed in the quiet room. "The human. And the contamination." Krell placed the silver box on a medical tray. It looked small and stupid in the high-tech room. High Physician Malakar turned, his eyes landing on the box. His face twisted in disgust. "This is the source? This object?" He waved his medical scanner over the box. The scanner whined, its lights flashing red. "Unregulated, chaotic, it is swimming with complex bacteria and high-energy fats," Malakar declared, stepping back. "Your Majesty, this is not food. It is a biological hazard. It could kill you instantly. Prince Vorian looked at his mother. Mother, please. This is madness. Let us destroy it. Rhys found his voice. It came out as a squeak. Sirs, your majesty. It's just food. It's bread, cheese, and salted ham. It's human food. I was just eating my lunch. The queen's head turned on the pillow. Her voice was a dry rasp, but it cut through the room. Open the box. Majesty, I cannot advise this. Malachar protested. Open it. Captain Krell looked at the prince, who gave a small, defeated nod. With a click, Krell unsealed the container. The smell that had drifted through the vents now filled the chamber. It was no longer a faint, curious aroma. It was a powerful, warm, greasy, salty, and living smell. It was the smell of toasted bread and melted cheese. To the aliens, it was horrifying. Prince Vorian covered his nose. It smells burnt. High Physician Malachar gagged. The bacteria. The air is compromised. But the queen breathed. She inhaled, deep and long. Her weak body shuddered. A tiny spark of blue returned to her lips. She pushed herself up on one elbow. The movement, so small, made the prince gasp. She had not moved on her own in a week. That, she whispered, her eyes locked on the soggy, ugly, cooling sandwich. I want that. No. Malachar shouted, for a doctor. You don't know what it will do. I know what not eating it will do, the queen said. I will die. Give it to me. She was too weak. Her shaking hand could not reach. Her eyes moved from the sandwich to the human. You, she commanded Rhys. Bring it. Rhys was frozen. Captain Krell nudged him hard. The queen gave you an order, human. Rhys's hands were shaking. He looked at the prince, at the doctor, at the guards. They were all staring at him. He was a low-level engineer about to hand-feed the ruler of the galaxy. He slowly reached into the box. He picked up one half of the sandwich. It was cold now. Your Majesty, I'm sorry. It's not hot anymore. He's STMMERAD. To ford the bed. Malachar looked like he was about to faint. Rhys held out the food. With a strength that shocked everyone, the queen grabbed his wrist. Her fingers were like cold steel. She pulled the sandwich to her mouth, and she bit. The room was completely, totally silent. The only sound was the queen chewing. It was a slow, difficult, loud process. Rhys held his breath. He was waiting for her to scream, to choke, to die. She swallowed. Everyone watched. A second passed. 10 seconds. The queen's eyes, which had been dull and cloudy, suddenly snapped into focus. She looked at the sandwich in her hand, then at Rhys. High Physician Malachar, who had been watching his scanner, made a small, choking sound. What? Prince Vorian demanded. The readings, Malachar whispered, his hands shaking as he pointed at the screen. Her metabolic signs. They are climbing. Her body is responding. It is processing. The queen took another bite. It was a bigger bite. A stronger bite. A faint, but definite. Blue color was flooding back into her face. She was not just eating. She was healing. It is complex, the queen said. Her voice was clearer. It is messy. It is wonderful. She finished the first half. She looked at Rhys and nodded at the box. More. Rhys, in a daze, gave her the second half. She ate it all. When she was done, she leaned back against her pillows. She was not a healthy queen, but she was no longer a dying one. The imperial fading had stopped. The sterile, perfect, logical food of the palace had offered her body nothing. It was clean and empty. Her body had given up. This peasant food, this chaotic, bacterial, imperfect, living meal had shocked her system. It had reminded her body how to live. The entire palace, the guards, the prince, the doctor, were stunned into silence. They had just watched a grilled cheese sandwich save the empire. Queen Thalassa looked at High Physician Malachar. "Turn off these machines," she ordered, "and remove this sterile static from my room. It is suffocating." Malachar, for the first time in his life, simply nodded and did as he was told. Finally, the Queen's eyes rested on Rhys. He was still standing by her bed, covered in grease, his hands trembling. He was the most important man in the galaxy. "Human," the Queen said, her voice now full of its old authority. "Rhys, your Majesty. Rhys, you are no longer a biosystems engineer." Prince Vorian looked at Rhys, his expression unreadable. "You're new. Title is Royal Sustenance Provider," the Queen declared. "Your chambers will be moved next to the royal kitchen." She settled back, her eyes closing, but this time it was in sleep, not in death. "One more thing, Rhys," she murmured, a small smile on her face. "Yes, Your Majesty? Tomorrow, you will make me pancakes."